Well, this is a fun experiment. Not only is this our first episode of the Joy First podcast, I am coming to you live from Tagazout, Morocco. So we are doing this in the wild, poolside. So who knows? We might have some interruptions, but we'll see how we go. Welcome back. It is so nice to be in some sunshine, and I think it's so appropriate. The reason I wanted to record this episode this way is because today we are talking about the vitality edit inside the audit, the 20 points associated with vitality in the Joy First audit we talked about last week. So if you've not listened to that episode, if you have no idea what I'm talking about, maybe go back and check out last week's episode where I talked about the Joy First audit and finding your joy pulse. We're just basically looking at a few categories of creating a baseline for what joy looks like in your life. And as I am all through this season, I'm going first and, sharing a little bit about what this looks like in my own life. Now, the reason that this is a little bit of a funny one for me is that right now, while we are on holiday, I am not feeling very vital. I have some sort of tummy bug. Thank you very much, Morocco. So definitely not feeling like 10 out of 10 on vitality today. And I feel like it's a perfect time to have this conversation because I have had a whole bunch of inner dialogue fights with myself about how I'm supposed to be on holiday, showing up for my kids, being a good partner for my husband, making the most of our time here. And what has felt best for me today is just to sit in the sun on this sunbed. And part of the reason for that is that this is the first day we have sun here. We've had a few days of clouds and wind, so it's been a bit chilly. I'm joined by my youngest. She's chilling here on the sunbed, having a little break from the swimming, trying to warm up in the sun. And we're gonna see how it goes. But vitality wise, it's a funny paradox at the moment because I'm in the sun on holiday, which is great, but also not feeling 100% well. So let's dive in. The vitality part of the audit is category 1, and it is one of the two parts of the audit that are more heavily weighted because obviously they play such a big role in our ability to experience joy. And I think, vitality is really top of the list, isn't it? If you're not feeling well, everything else is hard. Everything else feels like more of a struggle. And so I wanted to take you through the questions in this audit, as well as kind of where I'm at personally and what I've been doing as I kind of sit with my results. So in this audit, we have questions around energy, health, and embodiment, capacity. Questions like, I wake up most days feeling rested. I get enough sleep for my body to function well. My energy feels relatively stable throughout the day. I eat in a way that generally supports my health. I move my body regularly. I move my body in ways that feel good to me, not just because I should. I listen to my body's signals, hunger, rest, and pain. I manage stress in ways that actually help me recover. I have tools to regulate anxiety and overwhelm. I feel safe in my body. I tend to medical or hormonal needs quickly rather than ignoring or pushing through. I'm not overriding my body for productivity. I have energy left after work, etc., etc., etc. That was number 13. So you can hop over and join us on Substack just as a free subscriber if you want to get access to this audit and take it for yourself. There's 20 questions in the vitality part of the audit. And I think, so for me, I scored 10 out of 20. Not great. This is definitely one of my lowest scoring categories. And I know for me right now, a lot of that has to do with hormones. It has a lot to do with the stress I've been feeling in the last year, loss of several of my routines. I've been working out with a personal trainer and I stopped doing that in the fall. And I've just felt really out of balance in the last year. Now, the funny thing is, if you're someone who is a bit woo like me, I've been recently having conversations with a few of my friends who are really stuck into the astrology side of things. And there are a lot of really interesting sort of indicators, both in my natal chart, both for me personally, but also for collectively the stuff we're going through right now, according to astrology, for some of this like really unsettling energy leading up to the new year. So the Chinese New Year, which is, I believe, the 20th of February. So that might have already gone by the time you're listening to this episode, but I've always find that stuff really fascinating and interesting, to kind of see what the collective energy is. I had a group call with with the Founder Circle group a couple of weeks ago, and everyone showed up on the call with this same, we always do like a check-in of 1 or 2 words, and they were all saying sort of scattered was their energy. And that's really reflected, apparently, I'm not an expert in this, but in the energy that we're experiencing moving into this new year as we transition into the year of the fire horse, in the Chinese New Year. So anyway, I just wanted to mention that because I feel like there is a collective thing happening. And of course, there's individual things. For me, in the vitality side of things, I've had a couple of major things going on. I've been on a weight loss journey, which we've talked about briefly here, and I go deeper into on Substack, using Manjaro as a sort of second phase. It feels like the 100th phase of weight loss, because, well, I go into that deep on Substack, but that's been a really important part of my journey. And that's hard. It comes with, for me, not for everyone, but for me, it's come with a lot of side effects and a lot to manage. And it's basically just been trading up, dealing with difficult physical symptoms instead of dealing with a difficult psychological battle. So it's a bit of like choose your heart where that's concerned. And I'm transitioning into a new workout routine. So figuring out a new rhythm for me to do weight training on my own. And the weather has been terrible, so I'm not taking those long dog walks I love to do in the spring and summer. I struggle with some of that seasonal affective stuff, so I've been a bit low because of that. And so definitely there's a question in here, number 16. I feel connected to my body rather than at war with it. And I definitely have had a lot of time feeling at war with my body. And I know that that is not unique to me. I think as we talk about, this season being in the messy middle, and I speak a lot about that on the Substack, like the messy middle is where I feel I'm at, and it does feel messy. It's a lot of those things where it's like, you feel like you should have solved a lot of this by now, right? You feel like you've done the work, you've gone through the motions, you feel like you've quote unquote fixed a lot of this stuff, and then here we are again. And that definitely feels true. I feel frustrated by the stuff I'm struggling with, like I shouldn't have to. So what does that look like for me? When I took this vitality audit and I got 10 out of 20, I made a few decisions and changes straight away, which I thought I would share with you. I'd love to hear the stuff that you're doing. I know start of the year tends to be a like, let's get on top of our fitness, let's get on top of our exercise and weight loss and quit smoking and have a dry January and all of that stuff. So I know that energy is kind of in the air for those, vitality changes that we make. I know a lot of us now are tracking our steps and tracking our sleep with Oura rings and watches, and I'm not actually doing that at the moment because I find that having that level of data gives me more anxiety. I feel more stressed about it, not less. So I'm not doing that at the moment, but I probably will again, maybe in the spring when I feel more aligned with, getting out there and getting those steps in and stuff. Bless you, darling. And so one of the things I knew coming into this year I needed to do was to sort out my hormones. So I finally made an appointment with a nurse. I had that call a couple weeks ago, and I'm starting HRT when I get back from this trip, which, according to all my friends, is an absolute life changer, game changer, and I'm hoping that's going to be true for me. And I feel like that might be the magic. There's no such thing as a silver bullet, but in this case, I think it will be a silver bullet for a lot of my vitality stuff, is being able to feel more at home in my body, just feel like me again, which I just haven't felt like for so long. And so much of the brain fog and anxiety and just not feeling like myself I'm ready to be past that. So that's one of the things, is starting HRT. Another thing I'm doing is starting my own workout routine, which is new for me. I'm still making up my mind about that. I need to be getting to the gym, especially if I'm going to be taking Monjaro. I need to be getting to the gym 2 or 3 times a week to do some weight training. The girls have a swimming pool that's at my gym, so I'm like, how can we stack these where dad goes swimming and I work out? So I need to really determine the days that I'm going to be doing this and find the space for it in the routine, because I've been in some of this time scarcity as well, as I've been doing most of the driving for our household and just been in a really crazy time of like pick up, drop off, that mom stuff. I have felt extremely time scarce, which has definitely led me to not prioritizing the workout as much as well, which is a challenge, of course. Challenge for every mom all the time, not new. But that's definitely part of it for me. And the other part I wanted to speak to is something I know we all struggle with, and I'm even having it here on holiday, is this idea around I allow myself rest without guilt. My pace of life feels sustainable. I feel generally alive rather than depleted. Some of this is just season of life stuff. When you talk to people who are in similar life circumstances with having young kids, some of it is just, this is the season that we're in. I was away on a writing retreat a couple of weeks ago with a friend of mine, and her son is in college, and she was showing me her list of stuff for the year, which included reading 189 books. And I'm like, wow, that's amazing. I've read 0 books. 0 books. I've listened to some books this year, but I have read 0 books. And she was like, hey, look, I read 0 books when my son was like ages, 0 to 15. So I get it. And so finding that balance between doing the things that we need to do to feel vital and alive and well, and also letting ourselves off the hook for the stuff that just isn't going to happen right now, that just isn't the time. It's just not the moment. And that's a balance I'm trying to find. Will I ever be able to tick this box that my pace of life feels sustainable while I have young kids? I'm not sure. I feel like I should be able to create and control that, but some of that is because I'm prioritizing things other than my own balance, right? Like helping them have after school activities and being present and, trying to cook real food instead of having processed food all the time. Like these things are priorities that are maybe coming above my own balance where I don't feel, I have time scarcity all the time. And as I've been, experimenting with the Joy First methodology, I've been looking for ways to make this all feel less stressful. I've realized that so much of this is about perspective. It's about how we choose to think about these things rather than the things themselves, which is a tough pill to swallow because it makes me feel like, okay, so all last year I just could have had a different mindset. And I don't think that's entirely true. When there's stuff happening in the chemicals in your body, like that's real. Obviously, you're not going to think your way out of that. But it has given me an opportunity to think about, something as simple as gratitude is something I reach for when I'm finding myself being stressed and impatient, just looking around and really looking for the joy, which often looks like gratitude. What am I grateful for right now? But the other piece that I've really looked at is I notice like I'll be making dinner or doing something really simple in my life, folding laundry or making coffee, anything. And I'll notice that like my stomach is clenched and I'm moving really quickly and I'm like in a hurry when I really don't need to be. And I'm noticing that it's a sort of an automatic response to just lifing. And I'm trying to unclench. And these are places where I'm like, okay, how can I add more joy here? Can I turn on some nice music? Can I choose a nice mug? Can I, use the nicer coffee? Can I take a minute to appreciate that this is a moment of life that I can enjoy? It's not just a task that I have to get through. And, that's harder than it sounds. A, you have to remember. B, you have to not be in massive time scarcity where you're rushing around. And C, it doesn't always feel accessible to kind of have that attitude of taking a beat, finding the joy, looking out the window, even just unclenching and taking a few deep breaths and realizing like you don't have to clean your house like your life depends on it, right? Like we don't have to be in this high stress state all the time, even though it feels really natural. to be in this like nonstop, get it done. I recently did a post around breaking up with optimization. And I think this is a huge part of it is I am on a mission all the time to be the most efficient, to be the most optimized. And I think that is a huge, huge thief of joy. I don't think this is a place where, we're adding anything to our lives. This is adding to our productivity. And I think in many ways that hunt for productivity is really a problem for being able to find our joy. We don't have to be productive at joy. And I know we've got lots to do, lots to squeeze in, but maybe trying to sit with this question around, does it all need to be optimized all the time? Do we all need to be the most efficient all the time? Because what I notice about that is when I'm not able to do things efficiently, or I mess up and I forget to do that errand, or I choose the wrong line to get, it stresses me out. It causes me anxiety that is just so unnecessary. And I know this is a part of this, patriarchy, capitalism paradigm that we grow up in, where we need to be efficient all the time. And as an entrepreneur and a mom and all those things, like the time scarcity is real, but it is definitely an enemy of joy. So as I think about vitality and I think about the pace that I'm in and what I have control over and what I don't, I think really just trying to take more time in those moments of things I have to do and trying to make them feel less like have tos and more like want tos, and infusing anything I can into those rituals, those moments that, even just as much as allowing myself to breathe or do them like I enjoy them instead of do them like my life depends on it, is really gonna help. So anyway, this is the stage 1 of the vitality audit. I'm talking a little bit deeper about some of these things in Substack and the way that I'm handling them. We're also adding some fun stuff in there, like I'm adding some recipes that are my go-to things for kids, for fitness, weight loss. I've had some friends come and weigh in on some of this stuff, so I've got some new conversations to bring you over there, which I'm really looking forward to. And over the next couple of weeks, we're going to dive into each category of the Joy First Audit. The next category is security, so money, freedom, safety, autonomy. That is going to be what we talk about next time. And throughout the rest of this month, we're going to be building out our Substack with these things that I've mentioned. So if you want to come over there, we would love to have you. You can subscribe for free and get lots and lots of goodies as a free subscriber. There's also 2 paid levels that I'll share about a little bit more in the future. Super affordable, $5 a month. And then a founder member level that will include some really exciting stuff that I will tell you about in a future episode. But that is where we are starting to build community. And the reason I chose Substack is because of this element of community. I want to be able to talk to you. I want to be able to engage with you, not just sending these notes out into the ether, but really, hear from you in a real way. And so we have, for paid subscribers, we have some live chats over there. As soon as we have 100 members who are paid, we're going to start doing some live color club calls where we will every month dive into a color and do some creative stuff together, which I'm really, really looking forward to. And other than that, we are welcome to the adventure of becoming a video first podcast. You can find us over on YouTube. I'll make sure we link that in the show notes if you want to watch. This episode it's not especially interesting other than I'm sitting on a sunbed in Morocco, in Tagazout, in a little surfing village, and trying to get a little bit tan and hang out with my little, who's here warming up after her swim, before we head out into town, get a little lunch, and we'll see where we go starting to do this video first. It feels really aligned to start to share video with you alongside this audio because, we're talking about color, we're talking about joy, and it makes more sense to me to do that in a visual way. And so, we're going to do this little experiment and see how it goes. You can follow us over there on YouTube. We will also be sharing these videos on Substack and also probably on the blog, but it remains to be seen how many different places we're actually going to post this stuff, but hope to see you there. And I will see you next time as we dive into the second category of the Joy First Audit, security. You can find out what I scored out of 20 on this one and where I'm focusing, and get a sense of where you might want to be focusing as well if you're prioritizing financial freedom, safety, autonomy, money this year in your life, in your business, etc. And, as always, I hope this episode helps you find, choose, and share a little bit more joy today, this week. And I'll see you next time for episode 4 of the Joy First podcast. Bye.